about Gypsy Rose in the second episode of Gypsy Rose Life After Lockup. So they start off the episode with Gypsy freaking out because the parole officer from Missouri told her that she needed to be on the road heading to Louisiana, but she had stopped off in Kansas City to visit her family, and they only had 2 hours of sleep the hour before because they're banging all night. So she had her lawyer talk to her parole officer, and he was able to talk him into at least letting her stay until the next day. Gypsy revealed she consummated her marriage, and she said that she was really scared because she has scars all over her body, and she's not very, I guess, what's the word for it, experienced in the sexual department. So she wasn't sure how good she was going to be, but she said she's a little freak and she loved it. She said the D is fire. She was bragging about consummating her marriage to her stepmom, and I think it's her sister or stepsister. And they're like, well, are you guys trying to have a baby? What's going on? And she claims that they used a condom for protection. And she did later reveal, I think, that she did end up getting on birth control to avoid having a baby. But she was asked by her sister, well, what would happen if you did get pregnant? Are you going to keep it? And she said she wouldn't be mad if she got pregnant, but she said it's definitely not in the cards right now because she just has so much going on. I'm glad that she's not rushing into having a baby because I was worried about that since she was just ready to get married so quickly. And then she sat down with her family and Ryan, and they had a little welcome home party. She started opening up gifts. Ryan got her some Christian Louis Vuitton heels, and you know those had to be a pretty penny. And her dad got her a cute little necklace with a cute little card saying with it. And then Gypsy and Ryan got in the car because Gypsy was hungry. She was craving some McDonald's French fries, and I think this girl probably grew up on McDonald's because that's all she craves. Like, this is her first time having a steak in this episode. I think that kind of goes to show how sheltered Gypsy was and how she probably hasn't really ate at that many nice restaurants, so she's out here thinking that McDonald's French fries are the best of the best. They pull up at the McDonald's drive-thru and they notice that a paparazzi is taking pictures of them once again. And Gypsy and Ryan pull up to the drive-thru window and they're like, hey, can you pull forward? It's going to be a few minutes, probably having to wait on the fries. And Ryan's like, oh, don't you guys realize this is Gypsy Rose Blanchard? Like, he just has to let everyone know. It kind of seems like he's fangirling way too much over Gypsy's like status and who she is. He seems like the type of dude that if he has a conversation with anybody, like even if nobody's talking about Gypsy or anything to do with her, he will have to make sure he brings up Gypsy in conversation and let everyone know that's his girl. They finally got their food, and as they're driving off, Gypsy, she was ready to munch on some fries, so she pulls them out, and she's about to start eating them, and Ryan was like, oh, no, wait. You do not want to be stuffing your face right in front of the paparazzi. And she's like, you know what, good call. I think that was a good call by Ryan because that's exactly what the paparazzi likes to do. Get the worst pictures of people possible and then put it all over front page of the magazines and all over the internet. Then they went over to Gypsy's family's home and celebrated New Year's Eve. Gypsy got ready. She got her makeup and hair done, and she was wearing like this cute little dress. And she said she felt really confident. She never knew she could feel that beautiful because her mother would never let her show any skin. She was always wearing like ugly sweaters and hats, and she never felt pretty. So she's finally gaining her confidence back. And then she came out. She had a little dance with her husband and danced with her dad. It was a nice little beautiful moment. They rang in the new year together, and then next thing you know, they're showing us the next day at Gypsy and Ryan's apartment, and Ryan went grocery shopping, came back, and Gypsy was putting the groceries away, and then she sat down, And she told Ryan, like, look, I'm ready to get a puppy. I guess she's been wanting to get a dog for a while now. She's been talking about this for a long time, even when she was in prison. And that's like her first goal she wants to get accomplished is get a dog, because Ryan's about to go back to work and she doesn't want to be at home lonely by herself, because she's used to being around people, because her mother was always by her side all her life. And when she was in prison, she had 3 other roommates and she's afraid of being alone. While she's sitting down, scrolling through her phone, looking at different dogs, Ryan just comes up and he's all in her face, hovering right over her shoulder. And she just looks so annoyed. She kept looking over, like, trying to see if he'd get the hint. And finally, she's like, dude, you're hovering. And then he backed off real quick. And I'm glad she's at least able to vocalize that, because Ryan, like, he was doing too much. He was constantly just all up in her face nonstop. Like, you gotta give someone room to breathe. And he was constantly standing right next to her, all up in her face or hovering over her shoulder. It's like, dude, just sit down and give her some space for a freaking minute. It's like he needs to just like back off and let her come to him, because otherwise she's going to get overwhelmed with how overly affectionate he is at times. And it's like, just let her do her thing and look for a freaking dog without having to touch on her for 5 seconds. You can tell that Ryan isn't too keen on the idea of getting a dog. He's just kind of going along with it because Gypsy wants a dog. Otherwise, if there's his choice, he'd probably want to get one. And Gypsy was sitting there like talking about all these dogs she saw on this website she was looking at, and the only one she really saw were huskies. And they live in an apartment. A husky needs like a big yard and a lot of room to run around, so that would be a terrible idea. And Ryan was like, you do know what comes along with a dog, right? And she's like, okay, like what? And he's like, well, you gotta take it for walks, you gotta feed it, you gotta pick up after it. And Gypsy got so freaking pissed off. She said, you're talking to me like I'm a freaking child. I'm not stupid. And she said that she feels like a lot of people look at her as childlike just because she's inexperienced, but she claims she has had a dog before. But I think that is a reasonable conversation to have. Like, he's just trying to look out for the dog and look out for her, because sometimes people don't think about all the things that come along with something. And I mean, that's her husband. He should be able to voice his concerns and talk to her about that without her freaking out. But she thinks that he's automatically trying to be controlling, and when she feels like she's being controlled, she immediately wants to push back and just run away. If I was in Ryan's shoes, I would have been asking the same exact questions, because Gypsy has a history of being impulsive and not thinking things through. And I probably would have asked other questions too, like, hey, we have to figure out, like, what are we going to do with this dog while you're traveling? Because Gypsy goes on PR tours all the time. She literally just got back from LA, and you got to figure all that stuff out. Who's going to take the dog? You have to make sure you have money sitting around in case you have any big medical emergencies when it comes to the dog and you have to rush it to the vet. So there's a lot to think about. But Gypsy was not trying to hear any of that. And Ryan went outside and he apologized to her. And she actually took his apology and just reminded him not to treat her like a child. And it seemed like they started to be on better terms. But Ryan had every reason to be concerned, because a lot of his fears ended up coming true. When they ended up splitting up, she left, and she left the dog behind. I thought when he and her decided to get the dog, I thought it was his idea to get the dog after she told him that she didn't want to have a child. So he's like, okay, I'm going to get a dog instead and try to prepare her for motherhood. And after finding out that was her idea, and she pushed for it even when he wasn't really feeling it so much, and then she ended up leaving the dog when she ended up leaving him, It almost makes me wonder, did you realize Ryan was right and the responsibilities were too much and it was too much to handle, and you decided to pawn that off on Ryan when you left him? Otherwise, I just don't get why not take him with you. But also, I saw other people make a few good points, because I saw Auntie's advice talk about in a video, like maybe she didn't want to take the dog with her because Ryan would try to, like, do co-parenting with the puppy and do visitation and use that as an excuse to be attached to her and talk to her for the rest of his life. Like, I used to know an ex like that. I swear to God, I dated this guy. We got a dog together, and it was his idea to get the dog. He bought the dog, and it was staying at his place. He cheated on me. I ended up leaving, and this dude used to always make up fake stuff all the time. Oh my gosh, our dog is so sick, he needs to go to the vet, I don't know what to do. And he acted like he didn't have the money, and there's multiple times I showed up and the dog was perfectly fine. He's like, oh, he's better now, and he would just try to overreact as an excuse to try to see me. So I can understand that. Maybe she didn't want to deal with that. Maybe she knew she just couldn't handle being a dog mom anymore. I mean, I would much rather see her put the dog in a loving home where she knows things are gonna work out and the dog is gonna thrive, compared to taking the dog possibly into a bad situation, or taking the dog when she knows she can't handle it and then doing something to hurt the dog. I just don't get why she was out here dragging Ryan after she left Ryan and left the dog there, and Ryan claimed, oh yeah, Gypsy left the dog with me. And when she was getting dragged, she's like, well, Ryan's not even an angel anyways, he wanted to get rid of the dog, ask him about that. And Ryan responded and said, well, yeah, because when I got the dog, I thought we were gonna raise the dog as a family together. Which, that's understandable response, because he knew he works all the time and it'd be hard for him to keep a dog by himself, and that's why he wanted to make sure that Gypsy knew the responsibilities that came along with it, and she agreed she was going to take care of it. And then that all went out the window when she decided to leave him, and as she's going to drag him for trying to get rid of the dog, then she needs to go get the dog so it doesn't go to the pound. But Ryan ended up changing his mind. He decided to keep Pixie. And Ryan has been on a media tour this past few weeks in LA, and he was doing interviews, and in his interviews he seemed pretty bitter. You can tell he's still really hurt by the situation, and he spoke out on his Instagram after his media tour, and he admitted that he was getting so angry because he realized that he still has a lot of strong feelings towards Gypsy and trying to come to terms with his marriage ending. And he said in a few interviews that he would consider taking Gypsy back, but it would also be hard because so much has been done. He's really struggling with the whole fact that she went and got matching tattoos with Ken, because that's permanent, and that's just a constant reminder. We know how jealous Ryan is, and just imagine if he'd have to look at that tattoo all the time if he got back with Gypsy. That would start fights left and right. And in the episode, Gypsy ended up telling Ryan that her stepmom Christy revealed that her ex, well now boyfriend, Ken, reached out to her the first day Gypsy was out, and Ryan was pissed off. But I think that's just Gypsy trying to know, like, Ryan, you better act right because I have other options. Because otherwise, why even say something? Especially with the fact we know how threatened Ryan is with Ken when it comes to his relationship with Gypsy, because Gypsy has admitted that she's dreamed about the guy. She even dreamed about him the night before she got married to Ryan, and she admitted that she was talking to him while she was married to Ryan and didn't even tell him at first. And she has even said multiple times that Ken was her real true love. It just seems like she's trying to play mind games with Ryan by bringing this up and potentially trying to sabotage the marriage already. But that is it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below. Check out my lashes at AccordingtoAmber.com. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.